All right, we're getting off to a rough start today. Yo, Rome Studio is not working for me very well. I hope you guys got through that part. I had to restart it. I hope everybody came back. What's going on, Andy? How you doing? I'm hoping I don't have problems because this is part two of my reaction to the Piers Morgan uncensored program where they are in this debate about impeaching President Trump. They got that worm congressperson from Michigan on there, pretty much spouting off some dumbass shit, and I'm just reacting to it. Not all of them will be this long. I just thought it was such a there were so many different people on there. I don't want to call them celebrities, content creators uh, that I pay attention to. That I wanted to watch the whole thing. So now I figured I'd bring you guys along with me. So hopefully this will work. Let me see if I can't reconnect this. It should start off right where I left off. And we'll get this party started. Uh, y'all who follow me, don't forget, 8 o'clock tonight, I'll be on Killer Carl's Free For All Saturday, 8 o'clock tonight. I was going to be on this program last night with Jacob, Dr. Jacob, but I wasn't feeling good, guys. And I decided to take the night off and be prepared for today. So let's get this party started.
No. Did he say we should send American citizens to a foreign country like El Salvador? No. Did Obama say that he'd run for a third term, which is deeply unconstitutional? No. Did Obama kidnap people off the streets of America for criticizing Israel and arrest and deport them? No.
All right. Well, hang on.
Let
me add some.
By the way,
hang on. Let me finish the
thought. There's tons of right wingers who agree with me.
Let me
Tucker
add some.
Carlson agrees.
Let me add some.
Agrees.
Let me add
Joe
some
Rogan agrees.
All right. Hang on. Let me add some things to your list. Did Obama campaign in 0809 on a ticket of closing Guantanamo Bay because it was an illegal torture chamber and he was a lawyer? Yes. Is it still open? Yes. Did he deport more people pro rata than any president in history? Yes. Did he drop more bombs in a calendar year outside of World War II than America's ever dropped in a year ever? Yes. Did he run illegal drone programs that killed innocent people at weddings? Yes. In other words, there are lots of things on Obama's watch. Right. So my point is, you've got to look at these things in totality. If I was in America, which I'm not, but I'm a proud visa holder, I have a home in America. I look at the success on the southern border as absolutely stunning, and yet the amount of coverage that's getting is almost nothing. And it says to me that the media remains.
But whose fault is that, Piers?
Well, it's the mainstream. To me, it's the mainstream media. Well, let me bring in Batia here. Batia, this seems to me the mainstream media.
No, hold on. You asked me a question. Let me answer it real quick, Piers. So, look, in terms of the criticism of mainstream media that's hypocritical, I just pointed it out. But it's not mainstream media that did this. Trump, if he had just focused on closing the border, right now might be at 55% approval rating or really high. I mentioned that right in the beginning. But instead, he bungled it because he's a serial bungler. And he keeps testing the limits of his power because...
See, Cenk Uygur, he's got that Trump derangement syndrome. I don't believe, and you guys can weigh in on your opinion on this in chat, but I don't believe he bungled this deportation deal. What got bungled is them allowing them sons of bitches to come in here in mass numbers. So to do the American version of due process for a U.S. citizen, it would take decades to get them out of here. But when you're not a U.S. citizen, due process just means that you get a hearing, and it determines right then and there that you don't go to trial, you don't do none of this jury selection bullshit. You get a hearing in front of an immigration judge, and boom, they decide whether you're to stay or go. Now, they could do this, several of them per day, if they wanted to. So Cenk Uygur's being very disingenuous.
he's authoritarian by nature. He didn't have to do those 4 or 5 unconstitutional things that I just listed. He did it on purpose. He's the one punching himself in the face. So don't blame media for that. That was all Trump.
All right. Except that what I say is, all right, we'll come to you in a moment. Let Betsy just respond to that first.
Well, all of these marginal cases, when you actually look into them, turn out to be not marginal. Gilmar Garcia did not have an order not to deport him. He had an order not to deport him to El Salvador. So they sent him to the wrong country. But this person is a wife beater and a gangbanger and a human trafficker. He should have been deported to another country.
Yeah, and did y'all see the body cam footage they released? We got pulled over, I believe it was in Tennessee, with a extra row of seats in the back of his SUV. Because, you know, most SUVs, the extended ones have 3-row seating, not 4. He got pulled over and he had, I forget how many, he had almost a couple $1,000s in a paper bag, which I'm sure was the money that was given to him to traffic these people from, I believe, Texas to Maryland. So right then and there gave you an idea of what kind of person he was. So them boo-hooing over this dude is just pathetic.
We were let down as Americans because he got a lot of due process and they did it through because the immigration courts are deeply flawed. These people were supposedly criticized. They, the two that are, you know, news a lot, belong to called Columbia University Harvard Divest, which put out 100% supporting MS and the October 7th attack. That is a violation of a green card. We would never have given somebody a visa who's I'm going to put the 2 children allegedly are American citizens who were deported. They were not deported. Their mothers were deported, and because their mothers are not sociopaths, they chose to take their children with them rather than calling up and finding someone else to take their 2-year-old children. So all of these supposedly liminal cases are actually nothing of the sort. There has been no constitutional crisis. This congressman seems to think that having bad polling numbers is an impeachable offense, is somehow a high crime and misdemeanor. It is utterly laughable, and it's because the Democrats have no agenda. Donald Trump is running to the left of them on economics and to the left of them on fighting wars and being anti-war and trying to get us out of different things. That they are not immediately abandoned if Trump starts to defend it. It was the Democrats who thought that we had to control the border to protect working class wages. And now all you see is Democrats out there demanding free trade and demanding more access to China. You see Democrats literally sharing Chinese propaganda because it's against Trump. They have chosen China over their own working class voters. And Congressman, I'm sorry, but the UAW and the Teamsters have both endorsed the tariffs. You're in a lot of trouble in Michigan.
Yeah, well, look, auto factories are being closed. Auto are losing jobs.
No, they've lost jobs. They're not being closed because of tariffs. They were losing their jobs because they were being shipped out of the country. They were being shipped to Canada and shipped to Mexico. So this guy here, he really doesn't care about his constituents in his state. He's just wanting it looks to me like he's wanting 15 minutes of fame like that Jasmine Crockett, this super rich ghetto bitch.
Unconstitutional things. This president tried to the pump and dump scheme. Remember the memes that he profited from, personally profited from. Remember that the freedom of speech, the lawyers who had fought against him, he intimidated those, and then.
But what about Congressman? What about the sustained lawfare that was waged against Trump by the left? And by the way, one of the most self-harming acts of lawfare ever waged, because all it did was make Trump more popular and ended up getting him re-elected. So it was cretinously stupid to do it. But there can be no doubt that the left conspired collectively to try and take Trump down, put him in prison. You have people shooting him, literally trying to kill him. And all of this led to Trump being in the White House. The Democrats have got their own backyard to clean up first before they start issuing any kind of, well, isn't this all terrible? When the way you treated Trump, many would argue, was despicable. Let me bring in Tim.
I have a favor to ask of this congressman, and excuse me, I hope Jen joins me in this. Congressman, will you file articles of impeachment against Barack Obama for the extrajudicial assassination of Abdulrahman al-Awlaki?
Was not a member of Congress. Then I am now. I have seen,
and we can
I have seen.
If you want to
Yeah,
file those.
I have seen the unconstitutional, illegal activities of Donald Trump. And those are the ones that I am holding him responsible for.
Nobody cared when Obama murdered American citizens, especially a 16-year-old kid who was not a target.
Obama is not the president right now. Is Donald Trump is the president. Is the people are hurting. He is the one who is grabbing power. He is the one who's taking power away from Congress and the funds that Congress has appropriated. He is not releasing those funds. He's putting a hold on that. He's the one.
President Trump is doing what Congress hasn't been doing, which is their damn job. They're worried more about getting that money spent than saving the American taxpayer. This guy is an idiot. The whole left and right, Congress is broken. I've been saying it a lot. So you're talking about Trump seizing power. Trump is actually using executive powers as they should be. They've always been there. The powers have always been there, but politicians kick the can over to somebody else and say, well, I can't do nothing. That's something Congress has got to do if it's something that doesn't poll well. President Trump doesn't care if it polls well. He's interested in the end result. This dude here is a moron.
That illegally put Doge and a unelected, unconfirmed Elon Musk in charge of it. He's the one. He's the one who.
Don't you hate when I say that, unelected? Like Tim Pool was just getting ready to say, he's an employee of the U.S. government. He doesn't need to be elected for the job that he's doing. Freaking ridiculous. This is why they're not getting anywhere. They have no real message. It's all about negative shit about Trump, not about what they can actually do for the American people, but what Trump is doing bad. And they're making shit up. It's unreal. We'll continue.
Threw out that reporter from AP, from White House, trampling on freedom of
I should get minutes to the White House, otherwise my free speech is being violated. So I'm going to go to the White House right now and insist that I'm much more well known than that reporter is. So it's a clear violation of 1A if they don't give me a pass, right?
Well,
see, that's another false argument. Tim Pool just made a point to this gentleman. Just because a press outlet got kicked out of the press conference, I guess it would be where they get privileges to be there. Like Tim Pool just said, not every news outlet has a privilege to be in there. So, but it doesn't. He's not stopping free speech because that individual that ain't in there can still watch the press, the conference, and write on it as they see fit. So this guy is, I don't know. Hopefully, a lot of people with common sense has watched this and is laughing at this dude.
He's used his power, his position to intimidate media. He's used that to.
So is Obama. This is ridiculous. When Anwar al-Awlaki was assassinated, an extrajudicial assassination, and his 16-year-old son by Obama, the Democrats defended this and they said he should have had a better father. No one cared. Nobody cared. I know Jen cared. I know he's talked about it. I'm mad about it too. So now when you come out and you say Trump's going to be impeached because he's doing things that are unpopular, I'm personally offended.
It's not unpopular. It's illegal.
Murdered
illegal
Americans. No one did anything. And you could right now file those impeachment articles, we could get a criminal hearing and a conviction of Barack Obama for the murder of a 16-year-old. This 16-year-old, Abdulrahman al-Awlaki, was not a combatant. He was at a civilian restaurant in a country we are not at war with. And why won't anyone do anything about it? I'll throw a cherry on top. When Donald Trump, in his first term, when he first gets elected, he ordered a commando raid in Yemen, which reportedly killed a 7-year-old American girl as well. We don't have the same evidence on that one. I want that criminally investigated as well. How about you pursue those cases? But you know what? You won't, because when it comes to bloviating nonsense pertaining to the economy or what Trump may or may not be doing, no one ever goes after the war machine. No one ever tries to target the extrajudicial authorities of the executive branch and their unilateral authority to declare war. There's never been a war declared since World War II, and you're not going to do anything about it. No one will.
Look, this president has personally gained through the meme coins. This president.
Look, everybody in Congress has gained. We've all seen what they're worth when they're first elected and what they're worth now. I say it all the time. AOC did well in college, but she had college debt. How was she paying that debt? She wasn't using the degree that she had. She was a bartender. So she didn't really have a whole lot of money, struggling to pay her college debt. What happens last 8 years in Congress? She's worth almost $29 million. This dude, I don't know. We'll continue.
Has personally gained through the deal that he forced and intimidated.
Well, do you believe, okay, but let me ask you then, Congressman, do you believe that Joe Biden personally gained from what his son was up to in Ukraine, working for energy companies for which he had zero experience? And he's now given backdated pardons to all his family to protect any proper legitimate legal investigations of what they may or may not have been doing with countries like Ukraine and China. When there's a widespread belief, they're all putting money in their pockets.
Well, I'm just here as a member of Congress. You know,
but it seems to me, with respect though, it just seems to me you are so blinded by totality of hatred to Trump and everything to do with him that you can't see the wood for the trees. You can't praise him for anything. And actually, you're not interested in any crimes committed by Democrat presidents. You're not interested in any money guzzling behavior by the previous incumbent of the White House. All you care about is Trump. And it would have been a little bit more intellectually honest if you had cared a little bit more about what your own party were doing, because they've been up to a lot of no good for quite some time.
Well, look, I had 12 in-person town halls in the last 40 days. I've talked with hundreds and thousands of people all across America. And people are, what about now? Donald Trump is the president today. He's the president for the last 100 days. His unconstitutional activities is what we are talking about here. And that's what my impeachment action is all about.
All right.
So that's really why I'm here.
This is just a way to raise money.
Can I defend the congressman a little bit?
This is just an attempt to raise
guys,
money for this
you're all going to whataboutisms here, and I can understand why, because Trump's in bad shape. So you're going back to Obama. Look, I agree with Tim on the Anwar al-Awlaki. I'm the guy who brought it up. I wonder if Tim agrees with me on cutting the Pentagon, because Tim, you and I agreed on cutting the Pentagon when I was on his show, and now all of a sudden they're not cutting. They're adding $150 billion. So they're frauds, right? Let's be honest about that, right? So, but we're going to whataboutisms here. We can go back to Grover Cleveland if you guys like, right? We can go back to James Polk if you guys like. But you're trying to distract from what's happening with Trump. I'm perfectly willing to criticize all the other Democrats in the past for all the things that they've done wrong. But right now, we got to rescue the country. And so at this point, there's two different problems. One is that Trump keeps doing things that are unconstitutional. And to your earlier point, Piers, that is not what people voted for. In fact, the reason Trump disavowed Project 2025 is because it was really unpopular. Now that he's actually doing Project 2025, yeah, it's really unpopular.
See, that's bullshit right there, too. There are things in that Project 2025 that is part of our agenda. You know, that thing is a large document. There's some extremes in there that I absolutely do not agree with. But I don't hear Donald Trump going to any of those extreme policies in 2025. Just because some of the things that he's doing aligns with some of the policies that 2025 would like to see happen means absolutely nothing. It's another disingenuous argument. I'll continue.
But
that's
that's
not
not
what about
people
this,
wanted.
Cheng?
They just want.
But Cheng, but what about this? Look, I saw what Caroline Levitt said in her statement about 100 days. In his first 100 days, Donald Trump's delivered on hundreds of promises and already accomplished his two most important campaign goals. The border is secure and inflation is ending. The next 100 days will consist of trade deals, peace deals, and tax cuts. More American greatness on its way. Now, putting aside any partisan kind of flavor to all this, and putting aside that clearly right now things look quite bad for Trump, I could easily see a situation in 100 days' time, maybe not quite as quick as that, but certainly not far off it, where he might well have got a number of advantageous trade deals done, including China, where he could have forged peace in Ukraine, bringing an end to that war, and might well have done the same in Gaza, in which case he would be odds on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this is not, in other words, it's all very turbulent, it's all very chaotic, but I could absolutely.
President Trump should have got the Nobel Peace Prize the first time he was in office. Remember when Obama got it just for being elected? You know what I mean? And you see Jink up there doing his little sarcastic chuckle when he talked about the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, I mean, look, President Trump's already gotten 26 American hostage people who have been held hostage across the world. 26 in his first 100 days. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. He definitely, I think, before the end of his term, will do something that will be Nobel Peace Prize winning type action. So let's see. Cenk Uygur is just such an ass.
See a pathway to that all happening in the next few months.
What if
he turned into Santa Claus?
Well,
yeah, what if he turned into Santa Claus and started giving out presents to everybody?
Yeah, but which part of that may not happen?
I think all of it might not happen. In fact, Piers, I think absolutely none of that is going to happen. That's why Home Rebellion PAC to give people a left-wing populist alternative, real economic populism. People should go check out rebellionpac.com because we've got guys like Ro Khanna, Richard Ojeda, and other people who are actual populists who are going to do the things that Trump promised on the economic end and has not delivered. So, Piers, could he do one or two trade deals and then call it a day and pretend that he got a victory?
He's delivering on that promise. That stuff is complicated. There's a lot of moving parts to this tariff situation. It will work out in the end. If Jink knows that, he's just being disingenuous. He wants to argue. Anything against Trump, he just wants to argue.
Victory, he could, but it wasn't a victory. And if he keeps these tariffs on with China and others, soon we're going to have empty shelves. And all of this bloviating is going to be totally irrelevant because once those empty shelves hit or the higher prices hit, I mean, we had the stock market downturn. That's not even the big problem. He's already hit an iceberg with that. But that's the tip. The actual iceberg is the American people. And when their prices start going up and when they start seeing empty shelves, they're going to be furious because it's the exact opposite of what they voted for. And then you guys can come on here and start talking about Chester
I'm definitely going to get everybody
but it ain't
back.
going to make a difference.
Don't worry, I'm going to get.
See, I disagree with that too. We all know. I've been saying it. They have put forth the. If you had a crystal ball, they knew. They said that there's some things that's going to hurt for a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just something that you got to go through because we've been without a strong manufacturing base in this country for so long. To get it back, we're going to have to scrape a few knuckles. It's going to hurt in the back pocket for a little bit. But I almost guarantee, now I mean, I'm not an economist, but it ain't going to be any worse than the highest inflation level during the Biden term. But then we're going to see a little sunlight at the end of the tunnel. And I believe that'll happen within the next 18 months. I'll continue.
Everybody back in 100 days because I've got a feeling it won't play out how you think, Chen. I may be wrong. Carrie.
I love the fact that Cenk calls what he does all day bloviating. I agree, and I think if we pull that, most of America would. But Trump has some municipal hard hardworking human beings. Sometimes they misstep, but they're in the right direction for America. It's not an easy job. He's a lot of criticism because people like Cenk have to bloviate all day, to use his words, and he's got to have something to talk about. And he would lose the audience he has if he started talking about how incredible this agenda has been and the rolling out of this agenda. It's not going to be perfect. We're living in a real world here, and we're having to pick up the pieces and clean up after a dismal administration that the congressman sat by and didn't do anything about. First of all, I've never heard of this gentleman. I never heard him talk about disaster the economy was on Joe Biden. And I think it's really appalling for the people of Michigan. It used to be a middle-class state. It is an important state when it comes to our automaking here in America, the industry, and to hear that there is a congressman from Michigan who is opposed to this tariff plan to bring back the manufacturing we so desperately need and the middle class needs in Michigan and all 50 states. It's pretty shocking.
We got to be ready to bring manufacturing back. Trump has done nothing to establish incentives to bring manufacturing to.
This guy, is he living under a rock? He's doing all kinds of things to make incentives to bring manufacturing back. Remember, he started doing that in his first term. If he'd have been able to finish out his second term, although I think we got a better president today than we probably would have had in 2020. But I believe the manufacturing, that's been his goal from day one, way back when he come down the escalator, was to turn this country into a manufacturing powerhouse again. And this guy, I don't know, it's like we live in two different worlds, isn't it? I'll continue.
America, and just putting these tariffs on foreign countries just doesn't solve the problem. We are starting to see auto factories closing. We're starting to see auto prices going up. We're starting to see auto workers losing jobs. These tariffs are not good for Michigan, and these tariffs are not good for America, and these tariffs are raising American prices. This is like a Trump sales tax on consumer goods for America.
Let me bring in.
So why did this last month's new jobs report exceed expectations if he's saying that everybody's losing their jobs? The people he's talking about losing their jobs is these lazy-ass government workers who are only working part-time and they're doing remote from home, and then they can double dip because they can work another job also, because the job they do for our country is part-time anyway. For every 5 people we have in government, we only really need 1, and I'm probably being generous at that. So this guy, I don't know. I think I'm gonna put together some kind of a funny skit with this bitch. He's just, if it wasn't for he was in Congress, he'd be funny. But what he's saying and trying to do something like this is kind of dangerous. This is what they do. I'll continue.
Batia. I mean, Batia, it's interesting to me to see a number of Trump, big supporters breaking ranks a bit on tariffs. Elon Musk clearly is very anti them. The Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy being very critical. Bill Ackman, the big billionaire investor. Ken Griffin, another billionaire investor. They've all spoken out against them as well. And we've just seen what I would think is quite a worrying moment for the Trump camp, which is what's happened in Canada, where you've got a liberal candidate who's come from, an apparent obvious defeat to seize victory by running on an anti-Trump ticket because of the way Trump spoke about Canada. I just think he's got to be careful, Donald Trump. I could absolutely see this working, Canada. But I could also see it blowing up in his face. It's a high-risk stakes that he's playing with here.
I like the Canadian people. I have a few friends in Canada. But their government, and I say fuck Canada because they voted them stupid bastards in to control their world. So we got to worry about our world. And if it means taking down other countries, which means diminishing their ability to do manufacturing to make us stronger, then so be it.
Yeah, rich people hate tariffs because they're supposed to. They are class warfare on behalf of the working class against the elites who have pillaged America's middle class for the last 40 years. We have sold out our children's future to China. which owns just trillions of dollars of U.S. Treasury bonds. That is not good. We get cheap crap from China. They get our children's future. Our kids are going to be paying off the interest on that debt for generations. They manufacture the PPE and the pharmaceuticals we need to fight the pandemics that come from China. They manufacture the ships we are going to need to fight China, our greatest adversary.
But I agree with you. See, I agree with you. Listen,
I know.
Yeah, but I agree with you. The question
I'm just saying, like, it was going to.
Is the tactic? Here's my question for you. It's the tactic. I don't think anyone. Hang on. I don't think anyone disagrees with the overarching narrative that Trump has laid out, which is China's been ripping off America for decades. It has. It, as you say, it owns a lot of American debt, very bad for America. All the experts in the American economy have led to an economy with $37 trillion of American debt. If that's a success, I'd hate to see a failure. You know, this is an economy that Elon Musk keeps warning is extremely perilous longer term and could easily end up with America going bankrupt. So Trump is doing radical stuff. I get it. The question is, will the way he's going about this, as many economic experts fear, will it blow up in his face and make things a lot worse? It could.
So here's the point, Piers. No one else had the guts, the courage, or a plan for how to address this. Getting yourself weaned off of an addiction to cheap crap from China was always going to be difficult. And that is why nobody did anything about it, even though, as you say, Piers, we all agree that this had to happen. There was no easy way to do that. There is no easy way to get countries around the world who have been fleecing us with their tariffs to suddenly decide, oh, you know what, maybe this is not okay. Maybe we should stop enriching our elites on the backs of the American working class. What Trump did was it's really amazing. There is now a 10% global tariff, which the world is actually relieved about because it came down from the heights of Liberation Day. Like, do you understand what a feat that was? That is seen as an improvement from countries that for decades have been fleecing us with their own tariffs. So this was always going to be hard. I have not heard a single other plan for how to get American manufacturing back to America. And it's just nonsense that Trump hasn't done that. He has $1.5 trillion in manufacturing committed since the day that he took office. Nobody else was able to do that. And to do that, you need a carrot and you need a stick, because American corporations are not suddenly going to wake up and be like, oh, maybe having a sense of what it means to have prosperity for our entire nation is more important than our quarterly reports. That was never going to happen without a little bit of pain.
Okay. I want to
listen to this young lady. Now, the voice kind of irritates me a little bit, but that's fine. This young lady is saying stuff that I try to say, and I can't articulate good enough to get my point across on these things. She's saying exactly what it's going to take and what the plan is. And anybody who's been paying attention to President Trump through his whole campaign, this is exactly what we voted for. Is it risky? It's going to hurt a little bit. I don't think it's as risky as they act like it is. It's just the rich are pissed off right now because they're going to have to invest a little bit more money to continue doing business, because they're going to have to back out of China and start coming to America. And that pisses the rich off. So this young lady knows exactly what she's saying. I completely agree with her, 110%. Okay, I'll continue.
I want to wrap things by asking all of you. I want to ask all of you to give Trump a grade. We can have A to E or an F for fail. Cenk, this is the 100-day grade for the President Trump.
Yeah. Look, because he's so wildly unconstitutional, I want to give him an F-, but I'm fair. He did close the border, and he is taking a lot of action. I think it's bad action, but at least it's something. So I'll give him a solid D.
I gave him a B+.
A+, but I you struggle to be fair, and I even say I admire that. I have to A+. I think this has been. I never expected a president to fulfill this many campaign promises ever.
Okay, before I ask you, can you go up an A+?
You can't do 2 pluses.
No.
Well, I'm going to give him A plus because he has followed on his campaign promises. The people of this country are getting what they voted for, and they're ecstatic about it.
That's right.
And I believe that this congressman will really regret the day when he looks back historically and sees what an incredible, transformative President Trump will go down in history. He will be embarrassed about it. I cannot take this fake impeachment garbage seriously from a guy who looks like he pinned a squirrel on his head. He needs to get serious and start fighting for the people of Michigan.
I wish you hadn't
and
done
stop
that.
fighting the president who's trying to help the people of Michigan.
When you
The
don't
message is
have
gonna be lost
a good
with the
argument, you attack personally. That's what you do. Look, this president it has done illegal, unconstitutional activities. He has ruined the economy. People have
burned
having
anything.
buyer's remorse about him.
Okay, give me a grade, Congressman.
I would give him an F minus.
F
for
minus.
the
Okay.
damage that he has created
And
in America.
here's a fact for you, Carrie Lake, you may want to think about. The congressman, I've just been told, is 70 years old. You look about 50. What's your secret?
Great. Well, he should be more wise. At the age of 70, I would hope he'd be more wise in
Can we at least agree he looks the most youthful 70-year-old I think we've ever had on Uncensored. So he may have a squirrel on his head, not my words, yours, Miss Lake, but he looks pretty good for 70.
Well,
He looks amazing for 70.
Look, I want America to look good and America's economy to do better and American people be able to afford things and have a better life.
Well, the beauty of all this is I can get you all back in 100 days. We would have asked Tim Pool, but we lost him. We had a technical issue there. I'm going to think that Tim might have given him a B, I think.
Yeah, so that congressman from Michigan is so delusional that I have a hard time taking him serious. And he smiles the entire time. I don't know if he's smiling because he knows he's talking out his ass, or he's one of those people that will smile at you just before they sucker punch you. You know what I'm saying? But the young lady, and I didn't write her name down, the dark-haired young lady absolutely was on point with that message. And that I'm going to look into her. I'm going to research her. I'm going to find some more clips of hers in interviews. I've seen her before because I think she was on Bill Maher about a month or so ago. And I think she even put Bill Maher in his place, if I'm not mistaken. But my reaction, this is my first video reaction, and I know it was a long one. This is a two-parter because it was an hour long. They won't be like that going forward. I just thought this might be an interesting thing to kick off this fake impeachment. It's either Russia, or impeach, or he's doing something unconstitutional, or he's trying to be the next Hitler, or he's just wanting to be some kind of dictator. Putin is his hero. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And where do they get? Let me ask. There's 20 some of you here in the put in the comments, if you would, a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you got buyer's remorse. If you got buyer's remorse, put a thumbs down. Because I surely do not. I think he's doing exactly what I wanted him to do. And I've said from the beginning, I've said 100 times, is this going a little bit? Absolutely. But haven't we been hurting for the last 4 years? Haven't our lives kind of sucked for the last 4 years? I live in Springfield, Ohio. Let me tell you something. Life around here has been pretty damn hard for the last 4 years. And ever since a lot of these Haitians started self-deporting, which just means they're going to another state, trying to evade ICE, but things are calming down around here. Now, we're still having a ton of accidents because these people can't drive. But do you have faith in Trump enough that you're not having buyer's remorse? Or are any of you guys truly having buyer's remorse. I don't see anybody putting anything in the chat here. There's like almost 20 of you in here. Participate, people. We got to engage. I've been saying this for like the last 3 weeks. We are so used to just voting the way we think we should vote. Get up, go to work, raise our family, take care of them, and hope that our politicians are doing good by us. And they're not. So, and if anything, the Democrats, they know how activism works. They don't, their politicians aren't politicians. Their judges are not judges. Their prosecutors are not prosecutors. They're all activists. So we have to combat that. So I would hope that you guys would take the time to either thumbs up or thumbs down just to say, you understand what I'm saying. You're hearing the message. That's all I ask is, are you hearing the message? Are you paying attention? Do you see the big picture? Or are you pissed off that things ain't going the way that you thought he promised they would go? Now, my chat could be not working. I understand this because I've been having problems with the Rumble Studio, trying to kick this live stream off today. But I hope I don't see anything in chat, so apparently my chat's not working. So I appreciate that if you guys have tried and I just can't see it. But let me know in comments, because hopefully they'll be in there and I can see it on the recording side of it, and I'll go back and read them. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say it's time to organize? It's time to engage. It's time to beat them at their own game. It's time to remove all these people that are being bad stewards of our government. They're not taking care of us, taking care of the business of America. All they care about is these other countries. They care about Canada. They care about Mexico. They care about the EU. You know what I mean? They care about China. Who the hell gives a shit about China? China is starting to hurt a little bit. You know, that gentleman from Michigan saying, well, people are losing their jobs. They are losing their jobs. The factories are closing down. I don't think there's any proof of that. He didn't really give any. He's just saying that's happening. But I don't believe that is the case, because the unions are backing President Trump. So, because they know that if manufacturing comes back, the unions will be stronger than ever, because without people working and paying union dues, the unions are weak. They've not been able to negotiate from a point of authority against these companies. Is because these jobs are so scarce that the companies can dictate what their terms are, and the unions just suck it up and take it, because they don't want to lose any more workers, because if they do, that means they lose more dues. And a union cannot, trying to find the right word, they can't exist without that happening. So this congressman from Michigan, I'm looking into him too. Something tells me I'll find something shady in his background and his personal, because he's probably a lawyer or something. He's probably been an activist all of his life. Who knows? You know what I mean? I wish Kari Lake hadn't attacked his looks. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's just something only President Trump can do that, and do it in a funny way. Kari Lake, it just made her look like she was being bitter, because she didn't like his message. I don't understand his message. And this everything's so unconstitutional that he's doing. I disagree. Is there a fine line? Absolutely. But you know what? They didn't go through all this process to allow them in this country. Why do we got to go through all this process to put them out of this country? It should be the same process, due process, whatever they did when they let them in. That should be all they deserve when they get kicked out. No more, no less. I know y'all agree with that. Anyways, I'm going to be on Killer Carl's live stream tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. At Free for All Saturdays. We're just a bunch of old adolescents talking about politics and making fun of each other. You know how guys used to do before all this wokeness started happening and cancel culture. You know, you can't tell inappropriate jokes without somebody being offended, and they want to go on TikTok and have a tantrum fit about something that you said that they didn't like. Anyways, so those of y'all that follow Carl, I'll see you at 8 o'clock. You'll see me tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'm hooking up with the Southern Fried Podcast guys. At least one of the two will be hanging out with me tomorrow night at 7. So that'll be interesting. They're good guys. They got that Southern point of view of things that I like. And I'm going to be on Kim's Coffee Talk Monday morning. We're putting together a couple subjects that we might want to talk about. I got to email her that. That reminds me. So I'll take care of that. And then Movie Monday, guys. I'll be playing a movie. I ain't telling you what it is. So I want to thank everybody for following me because you gave me enough credit, basically, with the work that I've been trying to put in to be part of the Rumble partnership. And that's awesome because if you have Rumble Premium, I'm going to do 5 live streams, 4 to 5 live streams a month for just premium content only. So be looking for that. And it may not be politics, just throwing that hint out there. It may be something car oriented. I don't know. It may be something completely out there. I'm trying to think of something that would be something you don't see normally, because that's the whole idea of having premium, because you get special content and you don't get to watch this stuff without commercials. That's a good thing. So guys, saying that, thanks for tuning in. If you don't like me reacting to videos, put it in comments. I'll go back and read the recording section of this. Let me know. I think I enjoy watching them because I tell you what, and here's why I'm doing this, guys. I'm one of those guys that will watch something on TV and I'll point and holler at the TV knowing that they can't react to my comments, but it's just something I feel like I need to say out loud. So I figure these reaction videos on these segments of people talking either good stuff or ignorant shit, it's going to be one or the other. But I will comment on it, and it's what I do at home when you guys ain't even watching me. I'm yelling at the TV. So, guys, in case you don't know it, my name's James. And I want to say once again, thanks for hanging out. If you ain't following me, give me a follow. People on YouTube, you got to sign up on Rumble. Don't cost nothing. Because if you're watching this live, that's good. But if you have to watch a recording of this, it'll be edited because I get dinged by the YouTube lords on content. So there's that. So guys, I appreciate it. I want to say one more thing. Almost forgot. And I know it's hard to get people's approval and stuff. It concerns me when I get negative comments or even thumbs down, because I want to know why. Is it just because you don't like the truth and you did that, or you don't like my presentation on how I did it? Because I want to not do something in a negative way if that's all you focus on and don't listen to the message. So I want to work on things like that. I'm one of those people that I know a lot of people say, "Oh, just don't give a shit what people think of me." And I to a point, you can't please everybody. I get that, but I can navigate my way through this to improve the message, the way it comes across, because I'm not a professional. Y'all know this. I'm low tech as you can get, as you can tell by the video skipping. Although I am working on getting Starlink, by the way. I think I mentioned that before, those who follow me. Once I get Starlink, it's going to take me a minute because it's going to cost like almost $500 for a startup for the equipment and everything. But it's coming. And once I get Starlink, it's going to be a pretty good deal. So, there's that. Also, I want to say a personal message to my brothers and my nephews who are subscribing to me on YouTube and following me on Rumble. Now, my younger brother seems to critique everything I say. I'm not telling you, Andy. Look, so the chat room's working. Andy, you just sent me a chat. Why can't anybody do a thumbs up or thumbs down when I ask about whether you disapprove of Trump's performance in the first 100 days, or you are fine with it? That's kind of disappointing. The chat's working. Andy, thank you. I'm not telling you, Andy. What's up, Vern? What's this here? See if I can bring it up and read that before I get out of here. So it's definitely a thumbs up. Better here in Texas with fuel. It is better here with fuel prices too. Prices are knowing what has been going on with all the NGOs. Yes, the country has been saved by DJ Trump. I quite agree, Vern. I quite agree. See, that's the thing is when you hear somebody on mainstream media or one of these politicians, they're saying prices are getting high. They're saying gas is getting higher. Stock market's crashed, which ain't true. Stock market's almost back up to normal levels, what it was before this whole tariff thing started. But I digress. Even um, house prices in my area are starting to adjust downward because they were way out of proportion because of all this government money that flooded in here to the Haitians, not to Americans, but to the Haitians. So it basically took the average person here who worked a job or sleeping on family members' couches, or we even have a group of people that are sleeping under the bridge in our local park, and the city officials have told them they got 30 days to vacate or they will arrest them. Homeless people. They'll do all this for a bunch of Haitians to keep them housed, fed, money in their pocket, a car to drive. You got dozens of people sleeping under a bridge, local citizens, because of what has happened in this town because of the Haitians. Now, it's not the Haitians' fault. It's Joe Biden's fault. It's Mayorkas' fault. It's Merrick Garland's fault. It's everybody who voted for them sons of bitches' fault. The Haitians, when they're given something, it's free to them. They don't have to pay it back. I mean, human nature says take it. I mean, I get it, but it should have never been offered to them. It should have never been available to them. Ever. There was a time that if you wanted to come to this country, you had to have a sponsor. And that sponsor said that if this person that comes to this country that you're sponsoring doesn't stay gainfully employed, that you're responsible for their livelihood. Do y'all remember those days when that was the case? Because I was a sponsor one time. I sponsored some children of an Egyptian family that I knew that were trying to come over here and make a life. I was responsible for them, making sure that they didn't have to go to the government for anything. Now, saying that, their dad worked his ass off, and I didn't have to worry about a damn thing. That's what we need here. For them to have a game plan before they fly here or walk here and be approved to come in and be part of the American fabric. Because those Egyptians that I'm talking about love America. Love it. They are flag flying natural citizens now. Love this country. Can't say that about this last 11, 12 million people that's walked across the southern border, or we give them plane rides over here. Because I've said it before. They gave them a budget of $500 billion for transportation and like support, like clothing and food and sometimes housing on their trip to get here. All these Catholic churches and NGOs, $500 billion of money we didn't have. That's part of that added $2 trillion that Biden added to the budget of stuff we never had. We didn't have the tax base. That was money just printed just because. What did it do? Shot inflation through the damn roof. Although I've seen it worse. I'm old enough to remember the days of Carter. 4 years of Carter, and I bought my first house in '84. Now, granted, Reagan was in office, but I bought my house and I paid 13% interest, and interest rates was coming down because it was almost 20% when Carter got out of office. We were getting that way with Biden. So anyways, enough said. I extended this more than I should have. I appreciate that. What I was saying is a personal message to my family. Thanks for the support. Um, Other than my little brother critiquing me about me being behind the mic too much, or he always has something to say. I ain't energetic enough. I'm too energetic. Whatever. He's one of those guys. But he still supports me because he still tunes in, and he don't participate in chat. He'll get a hold of me later and tell me what I did wrong. But my other family, I appreciate their support. So thanks. You didn't think I was paying attention, but I was. I appreciate that. So guys, this is James, Empty Pockets Podcast, right here on Rumble, simulcasting to my Jimmy Pockets YouTube channel. Till next time, I'm out of here.